Hey, psychos. We decided to add in a little bit this week to the episode before we kind of get into it to just say thank you to all of you. We had a really, really exciting week launching our podcast, and we genuinely love doing this and really, really hope you love listening. So we're looking forward to hearing your feedback, but thank you guys all so much.
Yep, we just ended the first 24 hours after our launch, and we had over 120 downloads in that period, which is a fantastic start. We're really excited. People seem to be liking it. People seem to be listening to all the episodes, not just one. So we're really excited about that, and we're looking forward to fan interaction as well. Remember, you guys have the ability to message us on our email, social media accounts, which are all listed in the description. And if we get information or topics about the show or about what you'd like to see on the future episodes, that kind of thing, we're going to talk about them on the show. We'll state the commenter's name and we'll list what they want to talk about, and then we can maybe discuss it as well. So we're looking forward to. Thank you again for supporting the show and listening in. We hope you guys are enjoying as much as we are. And now we will go back to episode 4. We just wanted to add this in as an update for you guys.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about Season 1, Episode 4 of Psych.
And before we do that, we just want to say that we're having a ball making this podcast, and because, we love Psych, and we hope you're enjoying it too. And we want you to let us know if you're enjoying it. And, let us know comments on our social media. And if you have questions or anything like that, put them in there, send them to us.
Fan interaction is going to be a big part of this show for us. That's part of the reason why I want to do this, is because we love talking about the show and want to talk about it with other people. We want to hear your thoughts and opinions on each episode. Let us know, and when we start getting some messages or emails in, we'll start talking about those maybe in a new segment on the show as well, talking about last week's episode and what you guys thought about it.
Absolutely. We have exciting news this week. According to spoiler.com, we are going to be getting a new Psych movie. It starts recording in June of 2021, and it is going to be called This Is Gus, which is awesome. It's awesome.
So great. I'm so excited.
It looks like all of the actors are coming back for it again, and that's kind of one of the things we love about these Psych actors is that they don't mind coming back and being these characters again. They clearly had so much fun. Yeah, they had fun.
Well, they like the show and they appreciate what it did for them for how long it did it, and
they appreciate the fans.
Base, the fan base is pretty great. It's a non-toxic fan base that we're not sending hate mail and death threats to them like some stuff is going on. Exactly. It's a great fan base, and I think that's partially why.
And I think they really genuinely love the fans. And they, whenever they talk about the show, never a bad thing for them. They're not like, oh, I want to distance myself from that. It's awesome. So I think they're all coming back. And I mean, how great is it to be a fan of a show like this, that they come back and give us movies? It ended so long ago, but we still get to see the characters.
The show went on for, 6 seasons? 8 seasons. Mm-hmm. I think it's 8 seasons. 8 seasons, and we still are getting, I don't know, it's been 5 or 6 years, and we're still getting movies. This is going to be the third one. And I think this one, well, I guess they're filming now. I don't know when it's going to release, but I think the first two, it was a year or two between the release of the first one and the release of the second one.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and then they released everything on Peacock. So we had to wait until Peacock became available and launched for us to get that movie. Everyone was just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Turns out it was kind of good that it released in the middle of the beginning of COVID, and people had something kind of to look forward to there when they were home all the time anyway. But can I just say, USA, if we could have another week-long Psych marathon, that'd be pretty sweet. Just adding that in.
I'm also excited that this one is Gus centric.
Yes,
I do think that's going to be really cool. That was one thing that I was looking forward to, was seeing more of Gus. And I guess we saw what happened in the second movie. We saw what happened with Gus and a little bit about his future. But it's going to be cool, hopefully, to see a little bit more of that. So without getting into any spoilers or anything for the movies, I am excited to see more about Gus and what happens after the second movie.
I was just so thrilled to see that today. It was like the best news. I was like, yes.
Well, we were
another
just
movie
talking
coming.
about this like a couple days ago. Like if they're going to come out with a third movie and if it's going to when it's going to come out. So that's crazy.
And I always check like IMDb to see what their like future projects are and stuff. And I hadn't seen anything. And like today to see this, I was like, this is awesome. So,
yes.
Yay. All right. So let's get jumping right into this episode. This episode is called Woman Seeking Dead Husband, Smokers Okay, No Pets. And it originally aired on July 28th, 2006. It was written by Steve Franks and directed by Jeff Melman.
Jeff Melman has 99 directing credits on IMDb, which disappointed me a little bit just because he couldn't get that one extra credit. Come on. Like, he's going to go for the 100.
That's a very monk thing to say, Matthew.
I don't know if it's exclusive to Monk. I mean, I feel like that would bother anybody. But as I skimmed over his IMDb listing, I mean, to his credit, he has directed episodes of lots of hit shows.
Yeah, he did 2.5 Men, like 11 episodes of that. He has directed Grey's Anatomy, Desperate Housewives, Arrested Development, Malcolm in the Middle, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Favorite of mine is Beverly Hills 90210. Also Melissa and Joey, Everybody Loves Raymond, Frasier, Fresh Prince, so many comedies and dramas. But this was the only episode of Psych he ever directed, which I thought was kind of odd.
It was. Well, I don't know. I don't know how many. I never really kept track of the directors before, so I don't know how often they change them up. So I don't know if this was like a special occasion for them or if they were just looking for people to direct.
Well, like you can see, like based on what his other stuff was, when he did 11 episodes of 2.5 Men. There was another show on here, and I'm trying to remember which one it was. I don't want to.
Well, he did some of Scrubs too.
Yes,
I did notice he did 1 or 2 episodes of Scrubs.
Yeah, I mean, there was another show that he did 11 episodes of, and it might have been 90210. But there were some that a lot of times directors will be invited back a lot. I know Melissa Joan Hart directs a ton of the Goldbergs, and so there are a lot of directors that do get invited back a lot. It's odd to me that this was his only episode. So,
well, this episode. Well, let's get the breakdown first. 4 years ago, there was a bank robbery. 2 of the suspects were caught, and the other one supposedly died in a fiery crash. The kicker is that the $3 million from the heist was never recovered. Now, the 2 thieves are getting out of jail, and it is suspected that they are going to harass the victim's wife to see if she knows where the money is. Sean and Gus need to keep her safe and find the money to wrap up the case, but things get a little complicated when new information comes to light during the investigation.
this was a good episode. It wasn't my favorite episode, but there were moments that made me laugh out loud. The character development that's starting is really making me happy here. And I thought, good plot as far as a mystery goes. There were a couple of like unexpected things that did happen. And so I always like when that happens, when it's not real obvious. But I did want more Henry in this episode.
That's a good point. Yeah, he really was only in the introduction with the flashback. He wasn't in the rest of the episode at all.
Yeah. I tend to like the episodes he's in.
See, I wasn't a big fan of this episode. There was good aspects of it. There was some good scenes with all the main characters, specifically Gus, Juliet, and Lassiter. I think Gus got to shine a little bit as the sidekick, and Juliet and Lassiter, I feel like, had some good, I don't know, but relationship building moments where he wasn't as mean as he was in the last episode. Like they were actually talking. Like it looks like they were bonding as partners.
I think there was something that happens in the episode, and we'll get to it as we go through it, but where I think she's starting to do what she can to make him realize that she needs to get respect from him, which that was good to see. And we'll talk about that later. Yeah, and that she's knowledgeable in it. So we'll get to that.
We start the show off with a flashback scene where we have young Sean, still played by Liam James, thankfully, and Henry on a stakeout. We don't really know what's going on, and it's just them kind of talking. And it's based on context. It's like 6 a.m. They're out there early. Sean's tired. Henry is telling Sean how to do a stakeout properly. You're not supposed to be no drinking, no liquids, because you're always going to pee whenever something happens. That's important. We also see that the stakeout was for a neighbor stealing Henry's newspaper off his front porch. I love that. That was great, especially with how aggressive he was with the catching the guy.
Right.
He was
Hand
angry.
him the paper.
Yeah, you can tell that this is like a feud that Henry was in for a long time. Like, I'm gonna find out who's taking my paper. And I loved how I don't know, he was just so excited. You could see it in his face. He was like, "Oh, I got this guy. I got him. He's gonna turn him into the neighborhood watch." It was, that was a good intro. It's nice Henry scene.
I like how I see in your notes that you said you could see yourself doing that. I can absolutely see you doing that. And I find I find that the older I get, the principle of things matters to me way more than the actual issue. It's the principle. And I totally get that. And that was clear for Henry too. So okay, 1 minute and 37 seconds. Sean is sitting in the chief's chair and he tells Gus that they need one for the office because his birth canal has never felt so in line. I had to pause the show because his delivery of that was killing me. First of all, you're not having any kids, Sean, but the way he said it and delivered it was so incredibly perfect. I paused and was laughing out loud. It was awesome.
And while he's in there, we also get the scene. Well, it's in that interaction, and they were talking about. Gus was asking, Gus was afraid that the chief was going to walk in at any moment and have Sean sitting at his desk, and Sean, in one of his moments, says that he's like, "Gus, I'm not a mind reader," and then Gus gets a quick retort. No, that's just what you tell everybody. That was just a quick little snap. I laughed at that one just because Gus was on point. And I don't know, it shows that their banter is good at this point too. We learn that as far as the main story goes, and we talked about in the synopsis, we learned there was a robbery 4 years ago. Regina's husband was one of the men that was robbed it, but he's the one that got into the car accident and died. And the partners are getting out of jail, so the police are talking to her, letting her know that they're getting out of jail and that she might be in danger if they come looking for her. And that's where Sean and Gus come into play, where they want to get in on this case, and they get a little information on the woman. They find out she's into psychic, so they try to entice her with that to get on the case.
Can we talk a little bit of how he gets that information, though? Because I know this wasn't in my notes, but he goes back to that receptionist, or she's a cop, but the cop that is at the front desk area of the police department, and he knows that she wants to talk to her grandmother, so he gets her to take him to the records room because he says that her grandmother, he feels her presence, but she's in the records room. And he gets into the file and finds the information, and it was brilliant. It was go Sean. It was really funny how he got the information so that he could get to her. It was great.
See, that was some. See, I had that interaction listed under one of the notable points. I was confused with that because I forgot. I remember they had that in the first episode. That woman, it's Officer Allen, who's into the crystals and the psychic to the front desk, and I did not remember her after this first episode. I don't know. I don't even know how long she's in the show. I thought that was like a one-off thing they got rid of after the pilot. And I didn't like her character in the beginning. I don't know. It just didn't. It seemed a little out of place with everybody else working there. And then I don't know
she's
the
in
easy
too many
manipulation.
episodes. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm curious as to how many she's in after this, because I'm not a big fan of it, especially with this one. This one,
okay.
I hate to be a grumpy Gus, but this one was a little absurd, in my opinion. Take her to the evidence room, close your eyes. You don't hear me going through the boxes. You're not like a cop who's watching evidence still. This one was a little bit absurd. I feel like they could have done it a different way. and it pulled me out of the episode a little bit. It was like, oh wait, what are we doing? Like that's a little much. I hate to be the grumpy Gus, but that's I just didn't like that part. I don't like that character. I don't like how gullible she is and how gullible they make her.
Well, I think that's why she's got the job she does in the police office.
Maybe that could be it. But back at the the scene, I think this is something that you noted as well. When Lassiter and Juliet are like trying to kick Sean off the case or not let them on it. There's a scene where Lassiter's questioning whether or not he's even a psychic, and Sean ups him by reminding him of the last 2 cases that he solved for them, and then also, quote unquote, finding Lassiter's wallet and badge.
Yeah,
which irritated the crap out of Lassie.
Yeah, he put him right in his place with that one, with the keys and the badge, even though they were Gus's keys. But
yeah,
but because Gus walked in right behind and was like, Sean, where are my keys? So yeah, he had Gus's keys, but still, it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. All right, so it's 6 minutes and 42 seconds. We see the psych office, and they haven't changed the logo on the window to be blue or to be green. It's still blue, and it just doesn't seem right. But I don't know. I got my hopes up a little bit later in the episode that it was going to be changed, and we'll get to that. But
I thought it was.
Yeah, and then it wasn't. And it was, anyway, okay.
Yeah, it bummed me out.
Yeah, it bummed me out too.
We do get, although in this scene, we do get another look at the psych office, and it has mellowed out some since the spelling bee. Wasn't much crazy furniture. Like it looked more like a real office and less of like a set. So I did like that. And I did also make note of the blue decal. Yeah. It's not as good.
It's not right. So one thing that I noticed here, and I'm sure you noticed it too, I'm sure we're going to talk about it, is Gus's face when he walks into the office, because they don't show the viewer what he is seeing first. But his face when he comes in there, like immediately all you can think is, what has Sean done now? What has he done? What has he done?
And Sean is super casual about it. He's just doing the case. He's printing stuff out. He's reading things, telling them about stuff. Super casual about it. But Gus is baffled that Sean has partially removed an entire wall from the office space that they are leasing.
He has not done a good job with it.
No, he's like ripped out drywall, but there was like beams and pieces of it just like sticking out in every direction. It's not a good job. And this is one of the scenes where I tend to identify more with Gus than Sean, because I would be freaking out about the security deposit, about the landlord, about getting my name off the lease.
That is where Gus immediately went. He immediately was like, my name's on this lease, Sean.
Yeah, he's like, I'm responsible for this. What did you do? Oh God. Yeah. Like Sean just tortures Gus sometimes. Like this, I'm sure Gus was super terrified. Like I would be so upset if this happened to me.
Sean thinks it is no big deal. He's like, yeah, I'm just removing a wall.
Just let it rolled off the shoulder. Rolled off.
Yeah, just like nothing. But that's so indicative of his sort of mindset about things. Is like, doesn't matter.
And he knows that it bothers Gus too. Like he was being casual, but he knows that it is destroying Gus. And I think he likes to pull him out of his comfort zone occasionally.
Absolutely.
I think he does that on purpose.
It's really entertaining for him.
Yep.
While outside, this is at 10 minutes, 40 seconds. While outside of the motel waiting for these robbers so that they can follow them, Juliet tells Lassie that she's uncomfortable. This is like out of the blue. They're just sitting there. And Juliet says to him, I'm uncomfortable with office romance. I laughed out loud again because, she's obviously talking about his previous partner. And he immediately is like, who was talking to you about that? And it was so funny. And I noticed how young she still looks. Like she's like a baby, just really young, very innocent. And she just wants to stand her ground with him so badly. Yeah.
I think it's partially due to, as far as appearance goes, the way her hair is. It's not as like tight and like clean or like
Right.
as clean looking as it is in future episodes. And I think in future episodes that look is like more professional, more like grown up look. So I
Yeah.
think that's part of it.
Yeah, I would agree.
After this scene though, we can we're doing a, let me see here. So Sean wants to get more information from the family, and with the in of the woman, what's her name, Regina, being into psychics, he decides to get her in on a seance. Gus is not having it. He immediately is nervous and uneasy about the whole thing because he is worried about getting caught. And
The first scene, well,
Mhm.
the kind of, before you talk about the actual seance, the very opening of that with the robe and the song and the candle. I mean, I just couldn't. I couldn't. This is another moment that I was laughing out loud. Just the opening of him with his arms out and he's singing stuff. It was, yeah.
In the
I
bathrobe.
paused. Yeah, I paused again. I just
Mhm.
couldn't. I just couldn't even keep watching. I had to pause it and laugh.
Yeah, the best part is the fan under the table that doesn't even seem hidden. He's just like he's doing the theatrics. He doesn't care who knows, and he's just having fun with it. I love that they put the fan under there to really sell it.
And then they show him clicking it off with his foot when Gus wants to talk to him.
hmm
It's great.
Oh, and then there's another funny Gus moment where they go into the next room and Gus is like upset at him for doing this without telling him and not planning it with him. And Sean is like, "You can have a seance anytime. It's like a cosmetic surgery or a yard sale." And Gus, boom, with his information, is like, "Technically, you need a permit to have a yard sale." I thought that was really funny. I don't know why. It's such a simple like line, but that made me laugh for a little bit. I like that.
Well, it's just one of those things that shows you that Gus, like he's got the lease. He is a rule follower. He is not veering off the path.
Yeah, he reads the whole rule book whenever he does something. If he joins a team or is on some new thing at work, he reads the whole rule book and he knows all the different sections of it.
Gotta love Gus. You gotta love him. So later on in that scene at 14 minutes, 22 seconds, Gus is talking about the seance being fake. He's about to just out Sean about the whole thing. And behind him is the main window, and something comes crashing through the window. Now,
See,
this is where I was hoping.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking to myself, okay, well, this is why the writing gets changed.
Yeah.
It didn't.
The logo, from blue to green.
It didn't get changed.
Yeah, it didn't happen. Later on, we do see the window repaired, and it has the blue logo on it still. That really bummed me out. But in this scene, when it gets broken, I do think it's funny that Gus completely thinks that Sean set this up and broke the window himself to sell the seance. Like,
well, he's destroyed a wall in there.
It.
What would a window be, right?
Exactly. He's not even. He didn't even ask him. Like, he's like, why did you did this, right? This was you, right? You planned this. And then Sean validates his concern by telling him that was a great idea and that he wished he thought of that. Gus was right.
Yeah. So now we're at 15 minutes, 57 seconds in the show. This is where Jules is in the police station, and Sean and Gus are trying to get information from her about the case file, and she will not show it to them. She's like, no, the chief didn't ask you to do this case, and no. And so they're walking away, and Gus says, I like the other girl better. And Sean says, not me. It was so cute. You're really, really starting to see Sean's like attraction to her and his
almost like her crush. Like,
yes, exactly. Like he's just smitten with her. You can tell now. I mean, in the first couple of episodes, he obviously would like her or whatever, but he's actually saying things about her now. It's very cute.
This next scene is when Sean and Gus are in, Sean breaks into Gus's apartment again.
Okay.
And Gus, his bed looks so comfy in this scene. And it makes, I don't know, it looks so comfy and it looks like something Gus would have. Well,
we're in a different apartment now. And it looks like It looks like Gus's apartment. One of the things that I came across on this episode when I was sort of looking through stuff about it, but that picture of him, a picture of young Gus next to where Sean's sitting, he's got the same outfit on as Sean. And that is...
It's a little Easter egg.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a little fun thing. Very fun. And it almost looks like he put that shirt on to match it specifically over top of his other shirt.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if these things are James Roday's idea. That's what I'd like to know.
We really would need somebody on set to tell us how that was, like the costume designer or something like that. Because I'm very curious if that was intentional or not. I think it's obviously intentional for it to be like a little Easter egg.
But whose idea is it?
Who was it? Right, exactly.
Because the pineapple was all James Roday. So you got to think, is he contributing this kind of thing too? I mean, how cute is that? You got that picture of little Gus, and there's Sean sitting there specifically next to the photo in those clothes. So cute. So cute.
Mm-hmm. The next scene after they leave Gus's apartment, they are in the car riding over to do some investigating at I think it was the friend's house, Roy, the friend of the guy that died. And we have the scene, and in the car, this I guess would fall under the 80s reference.
Yeah.
They have Fountains of Wayne playing on the radio, the Stacy's Mom song. You can hear it in the background when they're talking. There was also a reference that I didn't know, but I'm assuming you do.
I know. This has
Meredith
to do
Baxter Burney.
Yes. Okay. So
when they're
talking, I'll explain. When they're talking about Gus's little crush on his babysitter back then, who was significantly older, they talk about his crush on Meredith Baxter Burney. Meredith Baxter Burney played the mom on a show called Family Ties. This was the show that Michael J. Fox from Back to the Future, Matt, got started on. This was his TV show. He played Alex P. Keaton. So when Sean says she was the mother of APK, that's what he was referring to, Alex P. Keaton. And so this was a very beloved show. This show was on, I think, Thursday nights for like years and years and years. It had Jason Bateman's sister, Justine Bateman, in it, and was a really great family show. And so Alex, that's where that's from. That's totally 80s.
Never saw that show, so yeah,
I'm
that
sorry.
went over my head, but I knew it was a reference just because of the name. So
well, see, that's why I'm here. I'm here because I lived in the good time. The 80s TV was great.
In this scene, we also get to witness the super smeller again. This is when they're at the house, about to knock on the door to try and get in. Gus knows that somebody's inside the house because he can smell the laundry vent from outside. And I thought it was funny because Sean gives Gus a hard time and makes fun of him for it. He does his super smeller face imitating Gus, and he's
the nose is moving,
and then he mocks him for it.
But he was right.
Yep,
you gotta love that.
Yeah, they sneak around back, and they're about to knock on the back door.
When they get to the back door, and this actually made me jump. When the character opened the door, I actually jumped, which I know that's kind of lame, but it is what it is. So we learn in this scene at 21 minutes, 43 seconds that David Wilcroft is in fact alive. He did not die in a fiery crash. This character was played by Steve Basic, and he and Anne-Marie DeLuise, who played Mrs. Wilcroft, there are tons and tons and tons of Hallmark movies. Both of these people have been in Hallmark series, Hallmark movies, and it makes sense because those movies are shot in Canada, and this show is also shot in Canada. So just a little bit of trivia there.
Whenever they were walking around, I do think that the director got in a good thing there. There was this really cool scene of them sneaking around the side of the house, and Sean peeked his head around the side, and then Gus came in right behind him with this perfect look on his face, this serious look. I thought it was a great a scene a great camera angle shot.
Is that in the opening credits? Why do I want to say that that's in the
I
opening?
think it is. Yeah,
I think
I think that is
that
it.
shot was used. Yeah.
Yep, that's a good point. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
I think that is from the opening. Okay, maybe that's why I liked it so much, because I recognized it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I thought that was good. And then we get to see, this is when we kind of talked about it earlier. We come back to the psych office now that we know that the guy's alive, and we see that the window's been replaced and it still has the blue writing.
It's so sad.
I was a little bummed out when I saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but we have something to look forward to.
Yes.
When
I'll be
it turns
excited
green.
when
Yes.
it changes to green.
Yes. So we have we've seen them go back to the office and kind of decide how they want to do things. And we're at the scene now where Lassie and Juliet are in the car. They're still trying to tail these two bank robbers that got out of jail. They're following them, sitting across from it looks like a pawn shop or something. And this is when Lassie sees that Juliet kind of knows what she's talking about. And you can see
she's challenging him.
Surprise. Yeah, she's challenging him. There's a sort of surprise on his face about this because she starts like listing off the police codes and telling him, well, who sanctioned this stakeout and all of this. And he thinks him doing it is enough. And she's trying to explain to him, no, somebody else has to have asked for this to be done. But all at once, there goes Sean popping up in the back seat. Very cute.
Yeah, surprising them. Nobody knows how he got in the car without them knowing. But he pops up, and Sean also displays some of his own little secret police knowledge that he doesn't let on to let people know that he knows about. He brings up and he says, actually, I think it's this code. The other one is only for federal investigations. He comes up out of nowhere and shocks everybody with that, although they do kind of breeze over it because he just scared the crap out of them.
Right.
But I do thought that was good, and he also does
Sean has to prove that he's a psychic.
Too.
Yes,
He convinces the guy that he's a psychic, and they learn that the wife of the supposed victim was actually the mastermind of this whole thing. She's not as nice as she seems.
His character is very
And
charming.
that was new information for us.
I think we both had the same point. A 2806 or 2805. Lassiter's face when Sean leaves, because Sean distracted them and they lost their tail.
Mm-hmm.
So Lassiter's face, he's just seething with anger and rage, and he's like trying to find his happy place in the car. Like he just closes his eyes, just like breathing, trying to let go. I thought that was great.
Yeah, he frustrates him. It's so fun to watch how much he frustrates Lassie.
It is, and it's getting to a fun place now. Like before, it looked like he was like upset, but now it's getting to like a fun place where he's not necessarily angry; he's more frustrated. I thought it was, yeah.
Well, it's almost like Lassie's finally figured out this guy is not going anywhere.
And he's slowly learning how to deal with him. He's not there yet, but it seems like he's trying to find a way to deal with it. So
it's gonna take some time.
This part, we're with Sean and Gus at the 2400 motel, because this is where the other two members of the heist were staying since they got out of jail. They got caught and they're inside. One of the guys has a gun on him, and had that awkward moment where he was like, "This dude's hitting on your wife," and he even says, "Yeah, she has that effect on people." Like he could have said at that point, like, "Well, she's not as charming as she seems. Like she's actually really scary, and she's not as great of a person as you might think." But he let it go because I don't know. I guess maybe he was trying to get away.
He still wanted to look for the money and just get out of there without her ever even knowing he was there.
Yeah, maybe that was the goal. Maybe he was like went over and was trying to rush to find it now, especially. The next thing is at 3604. We are at the mausoleum, and she is Raylene is holding her husband at gunpoint, trying to get him to tell her where the money is now that she knows that he's alive. Sean and Gus are there, and Sean, in his attempt to stall them, tells her it's in the crypt. And there's a little funny scene here with the stanchion, with the pole that holds the little guiding lines for lines.
The red rope.
And Gus didn't know what it was, but everybody else in the room knew what it was, and Sean is amazed. And Gus is like, "Yeah, I know what that is. It's called a stanchion. I know what it is." This is something that I remembered ever since I saw this episode. And anytime somebody would ask or like we walked past one, I would always point out that it's called a stanchion just because of this episode. Through this interaction, we then get the entrance of Lassiter and Juliet. They come in, guns out, and save the day, make sure everybody's safe. One thing that bothers me all the time in movies is firearm inaccuracies, specifically with stuff like this. When Juliet comes in with her gun out, you hear like the click of a hammer. She's got a Glock. It's a semi-auto striker fire pistol. There is no hammer on this gun. Not internal, not external. There's no hammer on the gun. And it bothers me every time. They did it in the Ant-Man movie again, or before, and I hate it, and it bothers me every time.
I was just happy to see that her hand wasn't shaking so much this time. She was more confident with her gun. I didn't notice this about the striker thing. I didn't notice that, but I
expect most people don't, and that's fine. But I had to say
nice
something.
that you're pointing it out to us. That's good.
Mm-hmm. That's good. We also know in this scene, whenever Lassie comes in from the other side of the room, he has his gun on the husband who was just beating the wall with the stanchion, and he's like, "Put down the stanchion." So even Lassiter knows it's called a stanchion, which I like. It was a nice little callback to a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
After all the bad guys have been caught, we're about 38 minutes in. The episode's almost over. Sean is trying to talk up Lassiter to the chief, and like he's saying, like, well, I had these psychic visions that were coming from Lassiter's like subconscious. He's the one who really figured out all this stuff. He's trying to give him some props and like get him, I don't know, get him some notice. And
right.
I mean, you don't know why. It could be a good thing where he just like wants Lassiter to know that he doesn't want to just steal the spotlight. It could be that he's trying to like, maybe he's trying to like buy into Lassiter's good graces by giving him some props. I don't know.
Maybe trying to like go, listen, I'm going to work with you. I want to work with you, not like we don't have to be like, well, we don't have to be in competition. Let's work together. Because then, if they're working together, Sean's going to get more cases to do. And, this would be helpful for him if there was some sense of teamwork there. So I think he's trying to maybe
the competition is
encourage it.
Solving the case, not who solves the case.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And it was cool, though, how he tried to cover for him and was like, I don't know. But
although I do love in that scene when Sean goes to read Lassiter's mind and he always touches his face. Not always just his head, but like his face, the side of his face, his thumbs like on his nose. I love it every time he does that. He does it to Gus sometimes in the future too, but he does touch Lassiter's head quite a bit throughout the series. And I always love it because Lassiter's reaction is either a very quick like slap away, or he sits there and just takes it and he's like, "Get your hand off of my face," and he just kind of just doesn't move. I like his reaction with those.
Absolutely. So that is it for like the episode wrap up. Now it's time for some notable things that we found in the episode. Matthew, do you have an yeah moment this week?
I do. My yeah moment was at 1424 when the Psych window was broken during the seance, and I thought that the blue logo was finally gone, and that was crushed later on whenever we saw that they replaced it with another blue logo.
Yeah, I get it. I see here that you also have a come on son moment, which is something we all didn't love that happened in the episode. What do you got?
1750, it was the scene in the records room with Officer Allen. It's something I kind of talked about before, but there's no way that would happen. She wouldn't notice what was going on. It pulled me out of the show a little bit, so that was my come on son moment. I just didn't really like that scene.
All right. I have a wait for it.
Which is when something happens that we want to find more about in the future of that episode.
So my wait for it was at 21 minutes, 43 seconds when David Wilcroft answers the door and is alive. That's my wait for it. Like he's standing outside the door. It's like, wait for it. And here it is.
Yeah. Mine was actually a little bit more meta than this episode, I guess how it's kind of supposed to be. But mine was more about how are we going to see Officer Allen again in future episodes? Like when is her character's outro? Like when did they cut her out? Because I know she's not in it for very long. and I thought that she was out after episode 1. So that's my wait for it. Is I want to know when we're going to see her again, or if this was the last time.
Okay, I gotcha. Henry's lessons this week. We see that lesson in the opening. We touched on a little bit earlier, but just don't drink on a stakeout. You'll have to pee, and don't fall asleep on a stakeout. So you don't want to miss something important when you're trying to find out information like that. Yep. I think you had the same, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that one is pretty straightforward. We only got to see Henry once this time, so.
So 80s guest stars. This particular, well, Anne-Marie DeLuise.
I had no idea.
Okay, which I get that. So Anne-Marie DeLuise plays Mrs. Wilcroft, and she in real life is married to actor Peter DeLuise, who you may have seen on other shows. He's also an actor, and so is his brother. And so they are the sons of Dom DeLuise. Dom DeLuise was a incredibly popular actor in the 80s. Did a bunch of movies like Cannonball Run with Burt Reynolds and like a bunch of Burt Reynolds movies. Dom DeLuise was one of his sort of sidekicks in his movies. So that was a huge 80s thing. Although he wasn't in it, I just thought it was interesting that she was his daughter-in-law.
As far as the 80s stuff go, we also had a few references to the 80s that we kind of discussed during the timeline. The Fountains of Wayne song and the reference to Meredith Baxter Birney.
Yes.
Some good changes that we found. There was one thing. I don't know if it quite qualifies. It's more of character development, but I did like the better relationship between Juliet and Laster now that we got to see with them more as partners and less of a somebody who's in charge of her. So right. I did like that.
She's slowly putting him in his place. I want to go back to the Blueberry. I always think it's funny when Gus is driving the Blueberry, and you noticed it when they were having that conversation in the car this time. He drives that car like he's driving a Mercedes or something. He's got his hand, this is little Toyota Echo, teeny tiny little car, and he's got his hand on the top of the wheel, and it's back and forth, and he's just trying to drive that car with as much style as he can. It
like swag.
Yes, cracks me up every time.
Our young Gus and Sean moment. We actually only got young Sean this time. It was young Sean and Henry, no Gus. Unless you count the photo of young Gus on the nightstand. Where's the pineapple? This time, it was pretty straightforward. It was kind of obvious. It wasn't as hidden.
Yeah.
It was right in the beginning at 2:19 when Buzz brings in the pineapple smoothie.
I did like, too, how Gus was like, really? You have him bringing you smoothies? It was funny.
All right, Barb, how did this episode hold up? We've covered all of the timestamps. We've gone over the notable points. How did it hold up overall?
I think it held up really well. The implications about Sean and Jules, I really like that. I like that there's a flirtation going on there on his part right now. That's kind of interesting to me. So I think it was overall a fun episode. I definitely think it holds up. I mean, you did see some kind of older tech. Again, we talk about this in almost every episode, but in this one, it happens to be in the hotel or the motel room that they're in, that the TV has the antennas with the aluminum foil, which I thought was hysterical because I know that you won't, Matthew, but I remember when that was a thing, when you had a TV antenna. And as the kid in the house, you'd have to stand by the TV and not only change the channels before there was a remote, you would have to move the antennas around until they got to a good place. So that definitely was a thing. And supposedly the aluminum foil made it get better reception. So yeah, I see the smirk that you have on your face right now. Yeah.
There's a big TV in there too.
Yeah, I get it. I'm old. The TV actually had a back to it.
Yeah, that was a big TV.
Yes.
I have to go the other way. I don't want to be the bad guy here, but I still think it held up as well. The story, maybe it was different the first time I viewed it, not knowing about the husband being alive and about the wife being the bad guy, but I feel like it's due to maybe like a lack of character development on this wife. We didn't see the wife enough to really build, I think, like a deeper like idea of what her character was, to where it was shocking that she was the bad guy. The thing with the husband coming back was more of a shock. I wasn't expecting that the first time around. But the thing with her being the bad guy, it didn't hit me as hard as I think it was supposed to. So that's where I kind of knocked it a little bit. I do like Gus had some cool sidekick moments where he got to be helpful, or he had useful information, or he had some funny comebacks. And I like the last
super smeller.
Yeah. And I like the Lassiter and Juliet relationship development a little more.
Yeah.
So there was some good parts. There was funny parts. The episode definitely had some funny moments in it. Just the crime story part of it didn't quite get me as much. It might have been a little bit better if we had some more screen time. Maybe I thought about if she traveled with them in the beginning, like during the first part of their investigation or something.
Mm-hmm.
If we saw her more, it might have been more of like a backstab to find out that she was the bad guy.
I think if they had spent more time with her, though, Sean would have figured it out sooner.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. So food mentions. At the end of this episode, when they are going to dig for the money and Sean thinks he knows where it is, he says, I brought chicken for a hearty snack.
Yeah, so this episode, they had smoothies, tacos, and then he says something else after that. I think it's when Gus is running away to go look for it. He talks about tandoori chicken. Yeah, so there's a few instances of food in this episode.
Please tell me, who says that? Chicken. I brought some chicken for a hearty snack.
Wow, that got you.
Hit me.
That got you.
That just hit me. I love Sean. Oh, okay. So thank you guys so much. That's it for this episode. We really appreciate you listening with us, and we hope you're enjoying the show. Again, please let us know if you are, and tell us a little bit about things that you might want to talk about in the episodes. Hopefully we'll get to address them, when we record again.
Yeah, so I mean, if you guys have notable points, if there is anything that you missed, extra trivia that you might know that you might not have caught or found, definitely let us know. Next week's episode, we will be discussing season 1, episode 5, titled 9 Lives.
You can follow us in the meantime on our Facebook group. It's called We Know, You Know, Ellipses, a podcast about Psych.
We also have Instagram, the Psych Podcast.
And our Gmail is thepsychpodcast@gmail.com, no spaces. And please subscribe to our podcast.
Yep. Yeah. Subscribe, review, let us know what you think. We're going to be going in order all the way through. So we're looking forward to do them. We have a great time recording these, watching the videos, looking up information. So
definitely,
we hope that you guys enjoyed as much as we do, and we'll keep listening.
And we'll keep you updated too on this Psych movie that's ready to start being filmed.
Whenever new stuff comes about that, we'll definitely talk about that on the show. We're excited for that. I'm hoping that we get some sort of story breakdown, soon. Since they're about to air, it should already be tied together with the storyline. So I'm hoping we get some idea beyond knowing that it's just about Gus. I want to know what's going on in this movie.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much again. And we hope that you'll tune in again next week. Have a great week.
Have a great week. Bye.